So, when it comes to the fear of commitment, we often talk about fears specific to dismissive avoidance and fears that dismissive avoidance and fearful avoidance share. But today, I want to talk about a commitment fear specific to fearful avoidance. This one thing is the biggest commitment fear that a large majority of fearful avoidants have. Fearful avoidants often thrive in the dating phase of relationships before commitment because they are generally good at connecting and they are getting their needs met in this phase, minus the certain triggers specific to relationships. Now, a fearful avoidant can have multiple triggers in regards to commitment, along with the one we are going to deep dive into today. But real quick, if you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Sarah Whaling, and I'm a certified life, trauma, and relationship coach. And I help people heal insecure attachment styles of all types and become securely attached, targeting where trauma is stored in our subconscious and unconscious mind. I tailor personalized plans for my clients to heal insecure attachment styles, healing from childhood trauma, heal wounds from relationships early in life or later in life with individuals with personality disorders that were damaging, and also heal everyday pain points. If that is of interest to you, please fill out a contact form on my website with a detailed description of what you are interested in working on, and you will receive a follow-up email which will include my session information. Now back to today's topic. I do want to say first that obviously not all fearful avoidants will have this struggle. There is a big number of fearful avoidants that absolutely want to commit. And in fact, they can really struggle if they're dating someone who has fears around or an aversion to commitment. I see this a lot with fearful avoidants who are dating dismissive avoidants. So I wanted to say that first. But if a fearful avoidant is averse to commitment, often the biggest commitment fear that a big majority of fearful avoidants in that situation have has to do with what is commonly the fearful avoidant's biggest core wound, the betrayal wound, and the trust wound. Fearful avoidants are often averse to commitment because they feel like once they make a commitment, the commitment is going to be betrayed. Now, in a fearful avoidance mind, this can be a lot of things, but it will boil down to a feeling of betrayal. Often, the betrayal wound or trust wound scenarios will involve some kind of dynamic with their partner and other people, often in a romantic sense. For instance, fearful avoidants can think that eventually their partner will cheat physically or their partner will cheat emotionally with certain friends, for example. But it can even be that they feel that they are not priority and they feel cheated by ideas that their partner will betray them by primarily giving their attention and energy elsewhere and to the fearful avoidant secondarily, which can make them feel betrayed by their partner. An unhealed fearful avoidant is going to be on the alert or hyper vigilant for trust betrayals because an unhealed fearful avoidant has a low, what is known as a trust baseline, which is basically the general level of trust that someone has in a relationship without anything happening to hurt that trust. The trust baseline of fearful avoidance is generally going to be the lowest out of all of the attachment styles. Obviously, this is going to be hugely magnified if the fearful avoidant actually has had trust broken by the other party. So, how this all gets worked out in a fearful avoidant's mind who is struggling with this is that if they don't get into a relationship and make it official, then there is nothing to be betrayed and they don't have to worry about it. It's less about the other person seeing other people and the way the fearful avoidant views themselves or insecurity. It's more about the breaking of a silent agreement and betrayal of that or perceived betrayal of that and anything associated with sneakiness or incongruence or malintent. It's about the perception that people want to pull the wool over your eyes or get one over on you. If you are the fearful avoidant experiencing this, you may or you may not have noticed that it might not really even register as a fear of commitment. You might just notice that it simply feels better to stay where you're at and not deal with what comes with commitment. This is often one thing that fearful avoidants are talking about if you hear them say that relationships are just too hard. The fearful avoidant ultimately has a trust or betrayal wound because part of their attachment trauma was that their trust was broken by their caregivers, either intentionally or unintentionally. They then carry that trust wound with them if they haven't healed. They generally have patterns of breaking self-trust as well because we are enacting our wounds on ourselves subconsciously in some form until we heal them. And this breaking of self-trust affects the overall trust baseline with others like a cycle. Since the trust betrayal wound is one of the biggest deep rooted subconscious wounds of the fearful avoidant, there is a deeply personalized component to it. It's not situational, like there are untrustworthy people that exist, which is reality. It's wherever I go, I'll eventually be betrayed. When you commit, you're giving of yourself, and this makes this fear come online that now that I've given myself, I will be betrayed. When it comes to different things in life, everyone has different deep rooted beliefs. If you have some core wounds or limiting beliefs related to that thing, it obviously will affect your overall view of that thing. When it comes to the aversion to commitment, there can be many deep rooted subconscious limiting beliefs related to it. So, what do you do if you have an aversion to it? You want to identify very specifically what your wounds are around it and solve for them at the subconscious level where trauma is stored so you actually heal the wounds and change the landscape of your brain. There can be many limiting beliefs associated with the aversion or fear of commitment, such as I will lose myself or everything ends anyways, so what's the point? And in this case, specific to the fearful avoidant, it is once a commitment is made, it will be betrayed. It is very common to have more than one if you have a negative idea of commitment. So you identify the specific beliefs and then you heal them at the root, the subconscious level. If you want to watch an in-depth video about exactly how to heal at the subconscious level and all about the subconscious and unconscious mind, check out my video titled "This Will Change Your Entire Life Forever," in which I take a serious deep dive into the subconscious and unconscious and tell you all you need to know and the principles of healing trauma at the root. Lastly, what can you do if you recognize that the person you are dating has this struggle with trust? While the fearful avoidant needs to do their own work on their trust baseline, establishing and building trust in a relationship is absolutely vital. You can use the principle of the 3 C's: consistency, congruence, and consideration. Be consistent. It's hard to trust inconsistent behavior. Be congruent. Do what you say you're going to do and do not do what you say you are not going to do. If something changes that was discussed between both of you, update them or have a new discussion, especially if it is something that pertains to an agreement about do's and don'ts or being on the same page about something. And finally, consider them. It is impossible to build healthy trust with someone who you feel does not consider you. Why? Because the other party has to know that when you are faced with different decisions in the world, that you care about how it will affect them and your relationship with them, especially when they are not around. Showing in various ways that you consider them will be important to a fearful avoidant. Well, if this video has been interesting or helpful to you, please give it a like, share, and subscribe if you haven't so you don't miss any future content. Thanks for being here. Take care.